At Fort Chicken, Illinois, a sick chicken has perhaps been infected with a virus. It is then processed and turned into a batch of nuggets. This footage is truly nauseating. These contaminated products are shipped without thorough inspection and eventually reach Fort Chicken Elementary, where little Shelley Linker, a fourth grader, ate the strange nuggets with black spots. The problem starts here. She is about to turn into something horrific. Parallel to that, we are introduced to Clint Hadson, an aspiring horror writer, in a scene at home. He asks his mother if she has had a chance to read his manuscript. She answers yes, but doesn't hesitate to give a blunt remark. She found it boring, the characters aren't appealing, and overall she didn't understand anything, a huge blow to any writer. Later, Clint is revealed to be going to Fort Chicken Elementary to serve as a substitute teacher. Arriving there, he encounters an uncomfortable situation. Another teacher has parked blocking his car door, forcing him to climb out from the passenger seat. Afterward, Clint meets Vice Principal Sims, who is confiscating a BlackBerry phone because mobile phone use is strictly prohibited on campus, not just for students but teachers as well. Sims announces that Clint will replace an absent teacher, possibly due to illness or perhaps pregnancy. This is a joke because the teacher is Mormon and that isn't impossible. Sims intends to give him a classroom map, but Clint refuses because he was once a student here. He asserts he knows every nook and cranny by heart. Then he meets Teacher Halverson, who gives him an emergency alarm button. This D-Sims will activate a siren and call the police if he is attacked by students. The police will arrive within 12 minutes if things get out of control. PE teacher Johnson appears but completely ignores Clint. Wade is the classic grumpy teacher type. Finally, Clint reunites with Lucy, his middle school crush. When Lucy asks what he's doing, Clint says he is working as a substitute teacher, though he is actually a writer. The conversation is interrupted by teacher Doug Davis. Then Wade appears. Lucy introduces Clint as a sleepwalker, making the situation awkward. Clint can't hide his irritation and immediately complains because Wade parked blocking his car door. Wade looks confused and repeats that his truck has dual wheels, as if that were a justification. Clint confirms he is a writer and has returned from New York to find inspiration, currently writing his debut horror novel. As Clint continues talking about his work, Wade cuts him off and orders him to go teach, showing his overbearing personality. Clint is led to the classroom. In another scene, the boys Patriot and Dink are teasing Shelley. She has just eaten the contaminated nugget. The first signs begin to appear on her face. Clearly, the virus has begun to take effect. At the same time, teachers are in class behaving oddly. Davis is telling students a confusing story about a person named Stewart who had cancer and lost his stomach. The children listen in silence, eyes wide, expressions both curious and confused by what the teacher says. Meanwhile, Clint begins introducing himself to his new class, trying to adopt a friendly style. He tells the class that if they hate him, go ahead because he's a bothersome sleepwalker, then steps to the board to write his name. At this moment, Dink notices the initials in Clint's name and intentionally mocks him, asking if that name is a vulgar word. Clint immediately responds sternly that such language is not allowed in class. Taking the chance, he shares frankly with the class that he isn't a permanent teacher but just subbing temporarily to make ends meet, while also writing a horror novel. Immediately, Patriot pipes up mockingly, "So you're an idiot then?" Trying to keep the class in order, Clint turns to Patriot and asks why he has such a name. Patriot was originally the name of a poodle. Patriot answers confidently and somewhat extremely that because he was born on September 11th, he is a natural-born patriot and will later join the Marines to crush idiots. Clint tries to restrain himself, reminding the boy not to use such words, or he will be kicked out of class. To change the atmosphere, Clint announces he brought his manuscript and asks the class if anyone is interested in reading the first chapter to give feedback. Calvin immediately volunteers to read. While Dink continues teasing Shelley, who completely ignores him, Patriot gets aggressive and suddenly yanks a lock of Shelley's hair, making her freeze for a moment. Then Shelley flies into a rage, attacking Patriot violently. Clint rushes to intervene, grabbing Patriot to pull him out of the room. During that, Shelley scratches his hand and runs out of the class, leaving everyone stunned. Patriot is taken to the nurse's office, where the nurse checks the wound and is utterly shocked. It wasn't a normal scratch. Shelley bit off a piece of flesh, causing a serious wound needing stitches. The nurse informs Clint that Patriot must be taken to the hospital immediately. Clint sarcastically quips that Patriot will be fine because he is a Marine in training. For his part, Clint still harbors some bitterness over Patriot's insolent behavior. Later, he meets Lucy again, taking the opportunity to apologize for his earlier unkind remarks about Wade. He confesses he didn't know Lucy was dating Wade and now feels awkward about the situation. He also tells Lucy about Shelley attacking Patriot and why he decided not to send her to the principal's office. On the contrary, he secretly feels smug because, in his view, Patriot is indeed a troublesome kid. Meanwhile, on the school playground, Dink is angry and decides to find Shelley to get revenge for his friend. He finds her in a corner and spares no insults or verbal abuse. Shelley doesn't back down but strikes back sharply and fiercely. From afar, Wade silently watches Clint chatting intimately with Lucy. Wade's gaze turns cold. Clearly, he is not at all comfortable with this situation. Back on the playground, Dink begins showing strange and aggressive behavior. He screams, clawing at other students as if trying to spread the virus, creating an uncontrollable outbreak. Within minutes, everything turns to chaos. In another corner, Teacher Halverson notices an injured student and approaches to help. But as soon as she leans down, she is surrounded by a group of 6 students. They pounce on her like a pack of wild animals, attacking without mercy. The scene is truly brutal. Another student approaches trying to intervene but meets the same tragic fate as Teacher Halverson. Meanwhile, Vice Principal Sims is sitting in his office checking the confiscated cell phones. The Sims principal's entertainment is interrupted by a call from Rick, who is panicking. Rick informs him that something extremely serious is happening. He asserts in a panic that he just witnessed one of the students eating Teacher Halverson. Right then, Vice Principal Sims walks out of the office with an air of authority, trying to restore order. But this effort is completely futile. A group of students immediately surrounds him. Then, they lift him up, and without mercy, they start eating him alive, tearing him to pieces to the horror of the witnesses. Meanwhile, Teacher Davis walks into the teacher's lounge with terrifying calmness and announces that a real massacre is occurring on the playground as if telling an everyday story. The other teachers finally realize the severity of the situation. Wade finally understands the problem. Small childish figures are slowly approaching him, now zombie-like creatures, faces blank but carrying a cold threat. Instead of running, Wade stands to face them, asserting he was a state football champion and trying to wake the remaining human part in the kids, believing there is still some humanity in them. Then he runs away when fear takes over. At the same time, a teacher tries to call the police, screaming while trying to describe the situation. But the call is abruptly interrupted when Patriot, now fully transformed into a violent and intelligent creature, appears and cuts the phone line. This shows the kids aren't just acting on instinct but retain the ability to think. This is no longer an uncontrolled infection but a true declaration of war. Teachers are the enemy. Finally, the teachers have a glimmer of hope seeing the police appear. For a brief moment, everyone thinks things are about to be resolved, but that hope quickly vanishes when one of the zombie kids brutally bites off the policeman's finger. The policeman, in pain and panic, immediately runs back to his patrol car, but while trying to escape, he is ambushed and attacked by Shelley. Wade has now completely lost control, shouting, "Someone has to do something." However, as soon as he steps out the door, he is immediately attacked by Patriot. Before the child can bite him, Wade wrestles him to the ground, but Patriot quickly gets up and lunges toward Clint. During the violent struggle, Halverson and Lucy arrive just in time to help, using whatever they can to hit Patriot. Clint tries to escape the boy's attack, but Halverson, while assisting, accidentally sprays pepper spray directly into Clint's face. Taking advantage of the chaos, Patriot lunges at Halverson, but she avoids it just in time. Finally, the zombie child is locked in a locker with a female teacher, and it immediately sets upon biting and tearing her. Taking advantage of the distraction, the remaining teachers quickly leave the scene and run toward the library where they hope to be safer. Running through the hallway amidst the chaos, they suddenly encounter Calvin. The boy's sudden appearance scares everyone, thinking he has also been infected. However, Calvin quickly reassures them, "I'm just studying for the test." The unexpectedly sane answer leaves the group relieved. Calvin is accepted and quickly joins the group in their search for refuge. Meanwhile, Patriot has escaped the locker and opened the door, allowing the mob of zombie students to swarm the school hallways, frantically hunting and attacking anyone left alive. The teachers and Calvin find a music room and immediately bolt the door. From afar, they see Shelley running toward them. Soon after, Shelley disappears from the area, perhaps looking for more new victims. Wade now decisively takes the leader role, asking everyone to grab anything that can be used as a weapon to protect themselves. But Clint looks clearly uncomfortable, objecting to this idea. Wade turns to confront him directly, voice challenging, "I'm leading for real. Not the type of guy who throws a kettle at people or writes a novel no one bothers to read about a kid who wants to have sex with a boat." Clint, now annoyed, fires back that what they should really do is find a phone, contact authorities to establish a quarantine zone, and stop the infected kids before things get out of control. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, the phones the Sims principal once confiscated suddenly ring incessantly. But the scene quickly turns into a gruesome moment when Patriot, with a terrifyingly cold face, smashes each phone purposefully. Back in the music room, Wade and Clint continue to argue, their voices getting louder. Unable to take it anymore, Lucy screams to interrupt both, demanding they stop and set aside their egos because this isn't a competition over who is right or wrong. Then Lucy suggests waiting until 3 p.m., the time parents will arrive to pick up their children. When they arrive, they will see everything and can help. Just then, Clint begins to feel dizzy and unwell. Lucy, alarmed and worried, asks Clint what's on his arm, but he just replies it's nothing, just a small scratch. However, both Lucy and Wade quickly realize something is wrong. That scratch doesn't look normal but exactly like a bite mark from the undead. Right then, Wade decides to act. He hoists Clint up like a sack of potatoes and locks him in a classroom. Then he sternly informs everyone that entering is strictly forbidden. Of course, Davis doesn't care. With a do-as-I-please attitude, he declares he will go in to take a look. No one says anything, but Davis still loudly tells everyone to be quiet, even though no one is talking. Right after, he shares his theory. According to him, Clint indeed has been infected with the virus the kids are carrying, but it seems his body reacts differently. He doesn't have the horrific symptoms like others, just nausea, some mild tremors, diarrhea, vomiting, and anal leakage. Davis lists them calmly. Almost nothing, right? He asserts with certainty that Clint won't harm anyone. Halverson skeptically asks why he is so sure. Davis answers with a serious face that he just analyzed the fluids using the two oldest scientific tools in history, his two hands. Then he reassures, I was wearing gloves. Clearly not, everyone can see that. Although Davis insists Clint is harmless, Wade still doesn't want to take risks. He orders Clint to remain locked up until exactly 3 p.m. no matter what happens. Finally, the clock strikes 3, the door opens, and Clint is released. Hope is rekindled. The teachers quickly go to the roof to wait for parents to pick up students. And fortunately, a mother has appeared. Everyone waves and screams loudly to get her attention. But anxiety rises when they see the woman's child also running toward the car. The teachers try hard to signal her not to let the child into the car, but the mother, too distracted and not understanding what is happening, opens the door for the child to enter. And at that moment, all hope collapses. Lucy panics, screaming they must warn other parents because the kids are about to swarm out, and if they don't act fast, they will kill everyone. Just then, a girl named Tamra pulls Lucy's leg. The group immediately reassures themselves that she isn't a zombie and quickly helps her up. The zombie kids have approached and begun climbing onto the roof. The teachers, along with Calvin and Tamra, hurry toward the auditorium. Meanwhile, Dink is still holding back the infected teacher. When everyone manages to close the door, Wade doesn't hesitate to grab a fire extinguisher and finish off Dink. Halverson looks at the scene, wondering why the blood is black. Davis, with his usual nonchalance, replies he doesn't know either, but will definitely find out, and of course, he will dissect it. Lucy tries to reassure Calvin and Tamra that everything will be okay. However, Tamra worryingly raises her hand to point to a wound on her arm. Lucy tries to stay calm, saying it's okay, just needs cleaning to avoid infection, then she quietly locks Tamra in the restroom. Meanwhile, the other teachers go with Davis to examine the body. Lucy takes the chance to talk to Wade, but Wade is clearly very upset. As usual, his jealousy relates to Clint. Lucy, a bit confused, reminds him she and Clint were classmates long ago, but it's been 15 years since she last saw him. Wade asserts that Clint is hitting on her and she has responded. Lucy tries to soothe him and explains they were just chatting, and if that makes Wade sad, she apologizes. Davis, after completing the autopsy, concludes that most infected students are brain dead. Although they can run, jump, and eat meat, they are no longer human. He also discovered the virus is particularly sensitive to the hormone androgen, meaning it only affects those who haven't hit puberty. Therefore, at least the adult group is still safe. Right then, all the lights in the school go out. The culprit is none other than Patriot, the boy who went down to the main circuit breaker. The teachers look at Calvin, who is lying unconscious. Lucy immediately says the boy is diabetic and needs a sugar boost right away. Suddenly, violent pounding on the door echoes. Everyone is terrified, thinking the zombies are about to swarm in. But surprisingly, the person knocking is none other than the school janitor, Mr. Hitachi. Suddenly, the zombie kids break through the door from the other side. Hitachi quickly leads the teachers down to the basement. Clint, panting, asks if he has anything to eat because there is a diabetic child. Hitachi only finds a pack of seaweed, something completely useless for Calvin. Clint remembers there is a candy vending machine in the teacher's lounge and also asks about the keys to Wade's pickup truck. Wade replies the keys are there and the truck can hold about 8 people. Clint suggests crawling through the ventilation ducts to the teacher's lounge to get candy for Calvin, get the keys, and come back. Then the whole group can use these ducts to get to the parking lot. Finally, they decide to send Clint because he is the smallest. While crawling in the vent, Lucy encourages him. Wade, out of jealousy, makes a sarcastic remark. Lucy can't take it anymore, screaming that if he wants, she will crawl in the duct too, and she screams that she hates all of them. Lucy joins Clint and scares the living daylights out of him. She grabs his leg without warning, making Clint think it's a zombie. Despite a shaky start, the two make it to the teacher's lounge. While Clint struggles with the vending machine, which seems designed to mentally torture its users, Lucy quickly grabs the keys and heads to the principal's office to find a phone. Clint is still fiddling with the machine, and just as he is about to get the candy, Shelly, the zombie girl, appears, riding her bike in circles. Meanwhile, Lucy reaches the principal's office only to find, with horror, that all the phones have been smashed into plastic shards. The noise Shelly makes draws the attention of another zombie which starts heading toward Clint. In the critical moment, Clint makes a clumsy but effective move, finally grabs the candy and dives into the vent, with Lucy close behind. Shelly and the zombies give chase. While fleeing, Clint tosses the candy through the vent to the group waiting. Clint and Lucy keep crawling to the library, closing the vent cover just in time to block the zombies. Clint shouts a warning that the zombies have even breached the vents. The teachers immediately use whatever they can find to seal the entrance. Amidst the chaos, Clint and Lucy share a private moment. They catch their breath and confess their feelings. Clint hesitantly admits that he lied. He is actually a real teacher. In New York, he had hoped to teach and write books at the same time, but he got bogged down in administrative grading and ended up writing nothing. He says he envies the students because they still have their whole futures ahead of them, while he feels like his chances have all slipped away. Lucy laughs, saying she almost called him a freak, but then concedes. He's right, and they share an intense kiss as if there were no zombie apocalypse out there. But then the moment fades. Lucy pulls back, confused, and says perhaps they shouldn't have done that. Soon after, Lucy radios Wade, who is calmer now, apologizes for her earlier behavior, and confesses that he was jealous of Clint because he is a writer. But before Lucy can respond, Clint grabs the radio and says, "I'm not a writer in New York. I'm just a crappy writer living in Fort Chicken, still living with my mom and sleeping on the bed I used to wet." Then he continues, "If you're jealous of me because of that, you've got real problems. You're handsome, Lucy likes you, and you two should be together. I don't belong here. If I overstepped, I'm sorry, but I have a plan to get us out of here." And he really does have a plan. Clint throws a handful of candy to the zombie children as if handing out Halloween treats. Surprisingly, they eat it and one by one roll over to sleep. Meanwhile, everyone takes the opportunity to craft weapons from whatever they can find. Clint and Lucy rejoin the group. Everyone starts making their way down the hallway toward the parking lot. Hitachi panics at the number of infected children remaining and freezes for a moment. That is when Wade makes a brave decision. He will stay behind to hold off the zombies to buy the group time to escape. He throws the keys to Clint and tells him to take care of Lucy. Without hesitation, Wade faces the zombies alone. Wade, who was once a loud-mouthed and selfish guy, has now become a true hero. The group runs to the car and climbs in. But just when they think they've escaped, Patriot suddenly jumps up from the truck bed and attacks Clint. The struggle is brief and ends when the car hits a tree, crushing Patriot. They continue to drive toward the nearby town of Dumont but run out of fuel before getting there. Upon arrival, they discover that the town is also infected. The virus has spread across the country. A group of zombie children ambushes them, forcing the group to hide in a children's entertainment center. Here, the teacher discovers that a box of infected chicken nuggets is the very thing that caused the pandemic. At least now, he has something to study, with hopes of creating a vaccine. Afterward, Shelly leads another group of zombies to surround them in the play area. Just when it seems there is no way out, Wade and Hada suddenly appear, still alive, in another car to rescue the group. They throw a giant inflatable ball to block the entrance, trapping the children inside the room. Then, they use water guns filled with gasoline and ignite them, burning the whole building down, which allows the group to escape just in time. They leave the burning entertainment center behind, their bodies covered in smoke and ash. In their frantic flight, they leave Dumont, heading for their next destination, Antarctica, a place where, according to the kids, no one wants to go anyway. Today's story ends here. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.